Guys and girls, how do you think the property market has gone the last 18 months? Have people made no money, a lot of money? We're going to give you one real life example of someone who's bought 18 months ago that has made hundreds of thousands and bought a positively geared property. It all sounds too good to be true. It is happening in our market. How to do it, who's done it, we're going to tell you about it. Stay tuned. Josh Wapshot, sales extraordinaire, aka The Economist.
Mark, leader of the people. Morning.
How are you?
Good to be back. I think this is our first morning it's back since the break. So
Yes.
Good to be back in and amongst it in the office early. Gotta love it.
Absolutely. Now, mate, you've got a really good hand. I'm going to enjoy doing these examples with you because you've got a really good head for maths and opportunities. And you wanted to talk about this topic this morning.
Yeah, definitely. I thought like you sort of with the intro, it sounds too good to be true, but purchasing at the right time and having the right plan in place. You've seen it over the last 18 months. We've had a project, guys, that you're all familiar with or would have heard of, 7 Rodborough Road, French's Forest, a project that's just about to complete. About 18 months ago, we started selling over at 7 Rodborough Road, and I had a specific buyer I wanted to discuss their journey throughout their purchase at 7 Rodborough Road because I thought it was one that everyone could learn from and implement into their own investment strategy. Now, this began with a warehouse purchase at the very beginning of the offering of the project. So, guys, if you're not familiar with off the plan, obviously, if you can't see, feel, touch, the developer needs to give some sort of incentive to bring the market into purchase, and that generally is price. So you'll generally have quite an attractive or a very competitive square meter rate on these sales. And obviously, when you're picking the right developer, the right location, this could be a recipe for success, I believe, and we've seen that. With this specific buyer, for example, he's bought a pretty standard warehouse, nothing crazy, nothing big. About 130 odd squares altogether in 2 car spaces. So it's got a nice open, floor, 4.5 meter wide, kitchenette, bathroom, and then a nice mezzanine level, carpeted, air conditioning. And essentially we've come to completion now. Now, all these warehouses have been revalued. So initially they would have purchased under superannuation. And I believe they would have left a clause in there with discussions with the developer in regards to being able to re-exchange under a new entity. People will do this for tax purposes or purposes such as this. So essentially, we've come to the end. We're walking into settlement. This buyer's gone and had their property or the warehouse revalued in its current market. And essentially, what that has allowed this buyer to do is actually redraw those funds that they put down initially through their superannuation, now exchange under a new entity, and by purely using the equity that's been created over that construction phase, they've essentially been able to fund this purchase with no cash now, as they've been able to absorb that initial deposit back into their super balance.
Yep.
And now the beauty with this as well, obviously being able to work with a team that's on the ground over there at Novak, we've also then gone a step further for this buyer, and we've managed to organise a tenant, a full signed lease, deposit, bonds paid. I can see you thinking there, Mark.
Can I just pause for a sec and just kindergarten talk what you just spoke about in numbers? So bought a warehouse, just a concrete box, 90 metres squared, French's Forest, 830, 50 grand then did a concrete slab in it. The builder built a concrete slab for them, 70 grand. So they ended up in it, I'd say 900,000 on construction when now that it's finished, and they were buying for cheaper, a bit like retail. If you go into the store, you pay more. If you buy online, you get it for cheaper. So they bought off the plan, they got it for cheaper. Now, bunny hopping to where you just came up to now, it's the stuff, the identical properties that was purchased for, with the concrete and stuff, 900 is now getting valued and selling for 1.2 to 1.3, about 300 grand. Back to you.
Yeah, so essentially that 20-30% equity created over that period. And you've got to remember, Mark, or for people that aren't familiar with off the plan, you're essentially paying that either the 5, most cases 10% deposit at the start, and you're not paying for that asset over the build period. So you're exposing yourself to that growth for as little as that 10% deposit. Now, when you
forget
think
that, they think they're paying interest repayments along the way. They're not. You're right.
Exactly. And I think it's, when I talk to customers about this sort of thing, I almost say it's, stock market like returns, but, the security of the property market. Because if you think about it, Mark, if he's bought it for 850,000, he's put $85,000 down. And like we've just said, in terms of the equity he's created, you're talking $200,000-$300,000. And, that's a good
85 down.
That's a good 300% plus on your money, because you've only put that 85 down.
People forget that. I was talking to Deegan, the plumber, yesterday, and his son. The ROI, the return on investment, is a return on investment. Was invested 85 grand. Spot on. And people miss that.
Definitely. And I think what we're seeing is probably a bit of a transition in the market, or normalizing what we see as a good yield. I mean, we always have people chasing that sort of 7%, 6% net.
Smashes that.
And it just never seems to pop up in the market anymore. Or if they do, they are gone very quickly. And then by the time it's sold, that 7% is now 5.8, because there's been multiple people then fighting over the asset. So I think this is a bit of a hack into finding those yields again, because like we said, we're buying right under the market value, but then you're going to enter the market with the rental that you'd expect from something that's worth 1.2, 1.3, yet you've only spent 850. So I think this is also another hack in regards to that side of things and yields, where you're able to purchase the property at the price you need for the rents in today's market to sort of get you those 6% net yields plus. So I think that's something that's quite interesting as well.
So we've told half the story, which is the purchase and how it was funded and how much it went up in that very, very short period with these unsung heroes. By the way, there was 85 of these warehouses that have done the same, that have done this, and there was 150 storage units for 200 grand that made similar money to these things, percentage wise. The second part of the story is the rentals. Can you explain that? Because now that these warehouses are going to be held by these clients, some are going to sell, most are going to hold. The rent that's coming in is not good. How much is going to be coming out of people's pockets per year? It's close to nothing. It's positively geared after depreciation, I understand. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, definitely. So look, some cases where I think it was little as $100 you're tipping in at the end of every month. In some cases, you're positively geared, correct. So essentially, again, another benefit I see to off the plan is, especially working with the right agent, is, for our example, we're boots on the ground throughout the construction phase. We've been lucky enough to have a really good relationship
on the ground,
with the
Mr. Trump. Yeah.
Yeah, really great relationship with the developer and the team down at 7 Rodborough. So we've actually been given some early access to show clients, not only buyers, but tenants for our investors there. So the other big thing was, again, these people haven't settled, they're not paying for it. But a lot of these circumstances, we've actually been able to tie up some leases where the tenants are happy enough with the product to sign a lease, pay a deposit, pay a bond, public liability IDs, all the rest of it. They're happy to supply all that up front, knowing that they can't move in it tomorrow, next week. Some of these people have waited a good 2-3 weeks just to get in, but have signed and done everything they can, as you would expect from a tenant. So that's the other beautiful side to it, is that essentially these owners are not only walking into a great return on investment in terms of equity, but now as soon as they settle, they've got a tenant in there paying that mortgage, which essentially means what we pointed to: your original cash that you put down as a deposit back in your super fund, nothing spent. Tenant in when you've gone to settle. There's no waiting 3 months. There's no, waiting for the right tenant. You've done all that, towards the end of the construction phase, and you're walking into a fully funded investment.
So this example, ex-family that bought the Unsung Heroes 18 months ago. I'm going to go from beginning to end. They put down $85,000 deposit, $84,000 deposit. Value went up to 1.2, 1.3 valuation, and that's what they're selling for now. So they put down they had no interest payments along the way. They bought wholesale. Now it's worth retail. They've also had a tenant found for their property. So when they're funding that purchase price, I missed the mezzanine. They put in a concrete mezz. They got the builder to do it and paid them. So 900 now, 200-300 grand made. Now it's complete. You can walk through. It's beautiful. Can you pull that up on your phone and show us the photo of the building? It looks just stunning. Now it's complete. Now we've also found them a tenant.
So there you go, guys. That's the top floor.
Yeah,
up
see, that's
there.
beautiful. Look at that. So you got upstairs is that concrete slab I'm talking about, and then that's called a mezzanine, and then there's a kitchen, bathroom, and then 91 meters squared on the bottom there. So okay, yeah, well that's what we're talking about, guys. Great, thanks, Josh.
Yeah, that's the inside, guys.
And then look at that. And then now we've had a tenant for 52,000 sign a lease for that place, which is 1,000 a week. Bear in mind they bought it for 900 with that mezzanine upstairs and everything. Positively geared.
And another thing I want to add, Mark, is
there's more.
Yeah, the tenants here, guys, is not your typical tenants that you'd expect in these industrial warehouses, especially up from the biggest Bunnings in Australia. I've got medical companies, I've got import-export companies, I've got a natural study science type companies up there. These guys have all prepaid, pre-signed, and waiting to get in there. So a very interesting tenant structure in these sorts of developments as well.
Yeah, cracker. Thank you so much. Congratulations. And I think also from an agent's perspective, it's a long haul. So you've done great, selling these properties and renting these properties. And it's not an in and out project that we're used to, which, people we can sell a property for within 2 weeks or 4 weeks. These things go on over sometimes 2 years or 4 years, these off the plans. But there's money made. But these people that are buying are not gloating. They're not saying, oh, hey, here's my bag of cash that I made. But as agents, we see this. We think, man, we've got to share this story. This is a really good story. And this is one of the stories today.
Definitely.
Have a great day, legend. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Hope you enjoyed this journey. See ya.